Some North Carolina drunk driving cases are being dropped because lab technicians are not showing up to court. It's an ongoing problem law enforcement and prosecutors say is setting offenders free. In tonight's reality check, we take a look at a possible solution. What should be a seat filled with a crucial witness often sits empty.
In fact, it may be the most critical part of a case.
SBI crime lab technicians who are needed to testify about DWI blood evidence are often not showing up for court.
With the SBI lab being in Raleigh and not being here, oftentimes the cases become old, and if the lab agent is not available after a number of times, on occasion, the cases do have to be dismissed.
That includes the recent case of Justin Derrick.
This would have been his third driving while impaired charge. It would have been the second within 7 years, which would have had a more detrimental impact on him and his consequences.
Prosecutors were forced to drop his DWI charge.
It's beyond my comprehension that this lab analyst would not appear and honor and accept that subpoena.
A frustrating pattern prosecutors and law enforcement have seen for years.
It's very disheartening for them, especially on multi-offenders, that they keep taking off the street and then seeing them put back on the street due to issues involving the crime lab.
Offenders can be recharged if another lab analyst can be lined up, though it's a timely and costly process.
Instead of proceeding within maybe 60 or 90 days, it can be up to 2 years before a case is finalized.
The no-show lab analysts are typically former employees who have moved on to another job because of higher salaries. They repeatedly ignore subpoenas or requests to appear in court that can be 7 hours away from Raleigh.
I don't know what can be done for people who leave employment and don't want to testify or don't want to cooperate unless, as they are hired, they're informed that part of their duties include, if you have tested a substance or blood and you're needed to testify, that obligation continues after you leave our employment.
The SBI does tell analysts who are quitting that they may be needed in future court cases. However, legally, the SBI can't force them to appear.
In 2005, I was yelling the same exact thing that we're saying today.
The biggest issue is that there is no SBI toxicology lab in the Asheville office.
We need a lab, and we don't need people to talk about it for another year or two and then decide, and we can't fund. If you can put this gadgetry on Mars, you can put a crime lab in Western North Carolina, especially if we're submitting more than a third of the blood from the whole state.
35% of toxicology requests come from Western North Carolina. The state crime lab has seen a 19% increase in the last 2 years. The Attorney General has asked the General Assembly to appropriate funds to add 6 toxicology lab positions to the Asheville office to avoid trial delays and improve the system. But a proposal before the state legislature just sits there.
We pay the same tax dollars as somebody in Raleigh, and so we should have the same services, and the only way to accomplish that is to put a lab in some reasonable distance.
And if you have an idea for a reality check, send us an email at realitycheck@WLOS.com.